Well, there's a couple of things. One is it hasn't slipped down the agenda of investors. If you look at the growth in investment in clean energy, it grew by 50% last year, and not from a small base. In 2022, it was 1.2 trillion. So that means it got to 1.8 trillion dollars. That's almost twice as much investment as in conventional energy. So there's a huge surge in investment in clean energy, in EVs, in the whole supply chain. And that gets to the link to geopolitics, because there's a crossover to geopolitics here. The supply chains extend across the world. They extend up into critical minerals. Some of the biggest suppliers of critical minerals, of course, China is, and so that relationship is hugely important. And as well, one of the themes in geopolitics, if I can put it that way, is industrial policy. Industrial policy both to de-risk, straight geostrategy there, but also to try to gain a foothold in competitiveness in the industries of the future, which are green, and of course, the other big topic of this week, AI.
I think you've been saying IRA and a subtle message in that response there. So I want to ask you about the US presidential election, whether this could get in the way, whether there's a Trump candidate for the Republicans, a future Trump presidency yet again. Could Trump endanger that 1.8 trillion that you've mentioned of investment? Could he reverse some of those flows that have been going into clean energy?
Well, certainly the U.S. election matters. All aspects of that election, the congressional elections, Senate, and of course for the presidency. Whoever wins that election will come into a world that is being rewired. In some respects, Donald Trump began that rewiring in terms of shifting of trading patterns, but it's being rewired in terms of how our value chains are set up, who's the friend for the friendshoring, if you will. It's being rewired in the energy transition, and of course it's beginning to be rewired in intelligence itself. So the occupant of the Oval Office or the Chancellery in Germany or any world leader has to deal with those realities and craft policies to get the greatest advantage for their citizens first, but also for the world.
But what we've heard from Trump so far is that he's not a fan of IRA. He's not a fan of some of these subsidies that have been handed out, thinking they're taxes on the future, and he's been threatening to turn back to fossil fuels. Isn't this a reversal of everything that's been achieved under the current presidency?
Well, first, look, one of my roles, aside from with the UN, is I'm chair of Brookfield Asset Management, and Brookfield does a number of things, but it's one of the biggest investors, developers of renewable energy around the world, and those are raw economic decisions. And so when we look at new power around the world, and again, I'm going to appeal to the AI revolution that's just beginning, all of that demands clean energy alongside for the data centers, for the compute that comes with the AI explosion. Now, over 90% of the investment, the ads worldwide last year, were clean energy. That's the future. That's where the investment is. And that is not investment, whether it's wind, solar, batteries, that require subsidies. What's more at issue, more at risk, are the next phase of climate technologies. Think hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, which are areas where the United States could be world leaders. But if the U.S. isn't world leaders in that, somebody else is going to be. And those countries are going to grab that market share, and the returns of that are going to be felt over following decades, long after whoever wins the next U.S. presidential election.